Something happened in your yard this morning. A chickadee landed on a branch 2 feet from where you were standing. It did not flush. It did not alarm. It just landed, looked directly at you, and stayed. Not because it was tame, not because someone trained it, because it decided you were worth staying for. Most people will never experience that moment, not because they do not love birds, not because they do not try, but because nobody ever told them what birds are actually waiting for, what they are watching for, what they are evaluating every single morning from the branches above your head. And the answer is not what most people think. It is not about the feeder. It is not about the seed. It is not even really about the food at all. It is about something much simpler, something most people have been doing wrong for years without knowing it, and something that once you understand it, you can start doing differently tomorrow morning. Welcome to Bird Minds. Today we are going into what birds have been waiting for you to figure out. Not what to put in your yard, what to be in your yard. Because the difference between a yard birds pass through and a yard birds choose to live in is not a feeder upgrade. It is a relationship. And like every relationship worth having, it is built one small moment at a time. Stay until the end. Because the last thing we cover is the moment that relationship completes itself. And once you know what it looks like, you will recognize it the first time it happens to you. Every single time you step outside, the birds in your yard run an assessment. They read your body, your speed, your direction, your predictability, and they file it, not just for that moment, for every moment after, building a picture of you that becomes more detailed and more accurate every single day you show up. Researchers studying urban bird behavior found that birds in residential gardens develop individual responses to specific humans over time, not to humans in general, to specific people. The same person moving slowly through the same yard every morning registers completely differently than a stranger moving through that same space once. The birds are not reacting to humans, they are reacting to you. And what they are evaluating, the core question every assessment is answering, is not whether you are dangerous, it is whether you are predictable. A dangerous creature they can learn to read is manageable. They can track it, anticipate it, adjust around it. But an unpredictable creature, one that moves without pattern, arrives without rhythm, behaves without consistency, is something they cannot model. And something they cannot model is something they cannot trust. Most people, without knowing it, are deeply unpredictable in their yards. They fill the feeder when they remember. They go outside at different times. They move quickly sometimes and slowly others. They are not doing anything wrong. They are just living their lives. But from the bird's perspective, they are a variable that cannot be solved for. And a variable that cannot be solved for is a yard worth leaving. The first thing birds have been waiting for you to do is this: become predictable. Same time every morning, same path to the feeder, same quiet movements, same presence day after day, until you are not a variable anymore, until you are a known quantity, a trusted fixture in the landscape they navigate every day. That is where it starts, not with what you put out, with when you show up and how. There is a measurement that matters more than any other in your relationship with the birds in your yard. Researchers call it the flight initiation distance, the point at which a bird decides that whatever is approaching has crossed close enough to require escape. And that distance is not fixed. It changes based on repeated experience, based on what has happened before when something approached at this distance and nothing bad followed. In other words, it shrinks. The first time you walk within 20 feet of the feeder, while a chickadee is on it, it flushes. Every time. The 20th time, it moves to a further branch and watches you. The 50th time, it stays and glances at you and goes back to eating. The 100th time, it does not look up at all. And then one morning, without any announcement, you are standing near the feeder and a chickadee lands on the branch closest to you and looks directly at your face and stays. That is not a coincidence. That is the result of 100 small moments of you doing exactly what you said you were going to do. Showing up, moving quietly, leaving without incident, building a track record of trustworthy behavior that eventually rewrote the bird's entire assessment of what you are. Birds have been waiting their whole lives for someone to do that. Most people just do not do it long enough. Most people are completely silent around their birds. They walk out quietly, fill the feeder quietly, walk back inside quietly. They treat their yard like a library. Like noise of any kind will destroy everything they have built. This is understandable, but it is missing something important. Birds are not afraid of sound. They live in a world made entirely of sound. What they are afraid of is unexpected sound. sound. Sudden, sharp, uncontrolled noise that arrives without warning. A calm voice, low and consistent, appearing at the same time every morning as part of the same routine is not a threat. It is information. Researchers found that birds in yards with consistent human presence incorporated regular calm voices into their acoustic map of the space. The human voice became part of the known landscape, something to be noted and accounted for, not alarmed by. Talking quietly to your birds is not eccentric. It is functional, not because they understand the words, because your voice, heard regularly at the same time in the same gentle tone, becomes a signal. A signal that means the known human is here, the predictable one, the safe one. Say whatever you want when you go outside in the morning. Name the birds you see. Comment on the weather. The content is irrelevant. The consistency of tone is everything. You are not talking to the birds. You are giving them something to learn. And birds, given something consistent enough and safe enough, will always eventually learn it. If you asked most backyard birders what the most important thing in their yard is, they would say the feeder. They would be wrong. Study after study on what attracts the greatest variety of bird species most consistently points to the same answer. Not seed, not suet. Water, moving water specifically. A bird bath with water that moves, that drips, that ripples, that catches light and makes sound is something entirely different from a static bath. The sound of moving water carries through vegetation, around corners, across distances where a still bath would be completely invisible. It reaches birds that never would have turned toward your yard otherwise. But the reason water matters more than food goes deeper than attraction. Birds need water to maintain the structural integrity of their feathers. A bird whose feathers are not properly maintained cannot fly at full efficiency, cannot regulate body temperature, cannot survive cold nights the way a well-maintained bird can. Bathing is not recreational. It is survival behavior. A yard that provides clean moving water is giving birds something they genuinely need, not just something convenient, something necessary. And birds remember where necessary things are. The cardinal that comes to your moving water bath in November is not the same as the cardinal that visits your feeder. It is coming for something it cannot find everywhere, something that makes your yard worth returning to even when the feeder is empty, even when the seed runs out, even when the morning is cold and everything else looks the same. There is a conversation happening in your yard that has nothing to do with sound. It is a conversation made of plants. Every native plant in your yard is a signal. It tells birds moving through your neighborhood what kind of place this is, what kind of food is available, whether this yard understands what birds actually need. A yard full of non-native ornamental plants, beautiful to look at, carefully maintained, is close to biologically empty from a bird's perspective. The insects birds depend on, especially during nesting season, are tied to native plant species in ways non-native plants simply cannot replicate. A single native oak tree supports more than 500 species of caterpillar and moth larvae. A non-native ornamental tree of the same size supports close to none. During nesting season, a pair of chickadees must find between 6,000 and 9,000 caterpillars to raise one clutch of chicks. In a yard with no native plants, finding that many is close to impossible. The birds may come to your feeder every morning and still fail to raise their young because the insect life your yard needs simply is not there. Native plants are not decoration. They are the foundation of what turns a yardbird's visit into a yardbird's live-in. Start with one native shrub, one plant in a corner that does not need to look perfect, one small thing that tells the birds something true about your yard. The birds will notice before you do. Everything we have covered, the predictability, the patient presence, the voice, the water, the plants, is preparation. It is the work that has to happen before one specific moment becomes possible. And that moment is this. You are standing in your yard, not doing anything dramatic, not holding food out, not calling to them, just being there the way you have been there every morning for weeks or months, and a bird lands on something very close to you. Not the feeder across the yard, not the bath near the fence. Something close, within arm's reach, sometimes closer, and it looks at you directly, with the specific deliberate attention birds give to things that that matter to them, and it stays, not for a fraction of a second, not the quick glance of a bird about to flush. It actually stays, and in that time, it confirms a decision that took months to arrive at. You are safe, not safe in the general sense, safe specifically. You, the person who showed up every morning, who moved quietly, who spoke in a low voice, who never made a sudden movement, who kept the water clean, who slowly and without drama built a track record of being exactly what you said you were. Researchers studying human-bird relationships found that birds who developed this kind of close tolerance for a specific human did so only after extended periods of consistent, non-threatening interaction. There was no shortcut. There was no technique that made it faster. There was only time and consistency and the patient willingness to show up and let the bird come to its own conclusion. The birds have been waiting for someone to do that, not someone with the right feeder or the right seed or the right yard, someone with the right patience. The morning after that first close landing, something in your yard will be different. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone else would notice, but you will notice. The chickadee that landed close yesterday will land close again today, and it will bring the flock with it, because that is what chickadees do. They share what they know, and what this bird knows is that the person in this yard is safe, worth staying near. The contact calls that used to stop when you appeared will continue. The alarm calls that used to spike when you stepped outside will quiet. The cardinal that used to flush when you came near the feeder will keep singing. And one morning, you will not be able to predict which one. You will step outside and realize the yard did not change at all when you appeared. It just kept going. The chickadee chatter in the maple, the cardinal chips from the hedge, the nuthatch working down the bark of the oak, all of it continuing as if you were simply part of the world they live in, because that is what you became, not a visitor to their world, a part of it. That is what the birds have been waiting for their whole lives, not the feeder, not the seed, not the carefully arranged yard. Someone patient enough to become part of their world instead of asking them to become part of ours. The door is open every morning. They are already there, already watching, already building a picture of who you are from every movement you make and every morning you show up. The only question is whether you will give them enough time to finish it. Go outside tomorrow morning, same time, move quietly, speak softly, check the water, and then just be there for a few minutes, not watching, not waiting, just present. Do that again the next morning, and the morning after that. One morning, a bird will land somewhere very close to where you are standing. It will look at you, and it will stay, and you will know, without anyone having to tell you, what that means. It means you did it.